Let's take a look at understanding some beginning HTML. In any document that you see, whether that's print or digital format, the structure of the page helps us understand the message that's being conveyed and to be able to navigate around in the document. It's HTML's job to give structure to our web page. For example, the use of headings and subheadings might help structure our page or give it a hierarchy that will help it be understandable to our reader or user. There are a number of different elements that make up the structure of our page. We will go over just a few of these elements here. To the left, you can see the HTML elements in red. They're usually made up of an opening and a closing tag, with the closing tag having a / in it. Each element is going to tell the browser what kind of information is between its opening and closing tag. Tags are like containers. Notice how some tags have other tags between them. The HTML tag has all the other tags between its opening and closing tag. The body tag contains all the tags that will be displayed in the page of the browser. The text between the H1 tags is the main heading, and the text between the P tags shows a paragraph, and so on. You will hear the term element or tag used interchangeably, but really an element is the opening and closing tag with all the content between them. The tag just refers to the opening or closing tag. We will come to understand what elements belong with what content on our page as we learn HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext refers to the way we can place hypertext links in our document that allows our users to move from one page to another. Markup is a set of symbols or codes for displaying the content on the internet. It's not a programming language, it's a markup language that tells web browsers the structure of our web page with our words and our images. This markup language allows you to code around the content. The browser will use this code to display or render our pages correctly. The code or tags we use are the markup. This is a simple HTML framework or skeleton of an HTML file or page. Notice there's nothing inside the body tags yet, so nothing would actually show up on the browser page yet. But these HTML elements are needed to begin an HTML file. An HTML file can be created in any simple text editor. There's no need for any special program to write HTML code. There are good editors, however, that can be used that might be helpful when writing your code. The first line here lets the browser know which version of HTML is being used. It is the document type declaration. This declaration lets the browser know to expect an HTML version 5 document. The HTML element is the container for all the other HTML tags. The head element contains elements that tell about the page rather than what's on the page, like the title of the document, what character set might be used, what styles or scripts might be used, and so on. The head here has one title element that actually contains the text title. That text will show up in the title bar or the tab at the top of the browser window, not on the actual page itself. The body tag is where all the elements that make up the page will go. Let's take a look at a few different types of elements that you might see inside that body tag. Here is the H1 tag. Notice how the text is contained within the opening and closing H1 tags. The tags have left and right angle brackets to show that they're tags, and the closing tag always has that / right after the left angle bracket. The H1 tag tells us what type of text this is. It's the main heading for our page. So we have placed markup code around our heading text to tell the browser how to interpret this text in the structure of our page. Here's a tag that defines a hyperlink, meaning when the user clicks on the text between the A tags, the text My University in our case, it will take them somewhere else. In this case, it's going to take them to another website, the byui.edu website. Additional information is needed inside the opening tag. More information is needed to specify where to send the user once they click the contents of the A tag. Additional information inside the opening tag is called an attribute. Attributes usually come in name-value pairs with the name followed by an equal sign and then the value in quotes. This is an attribute with the name of href and the value in quotes of the URL or web address of where the link will take the user. href stands for hypertext reference. Here's an image element or an image tag. This is one of only a few elements that don't have an opening and closing tag. That's because there's no content that is needed between the tags. All the information to show the image is handled by the attributes. This image element has two attributes, the src or source attribute and the alt or alternative text attribute. The src attribute has the value of the path of where the image is located along with the name of the image. The alt attribute shows alternative text that will be used by a screen reader or if the image is not available. The name part of the name value pairs are the src and the alt. The value are in quotes followed by the equal sign. Here's an HTML file as you'd see it in a code editor. Some editors will color coordinate different types of code. This is showing the Visual Studio Code Editor. The tags are a dark red and the attribute names a bright red, with the values of those attributes as blue. Take a look at the HTML tag. It has an attribute called lang that indicates the language that will be used for the content of the HTML. In this case, it's EN for English. We see that our HTML skeleton has more meta tags in the head section. We'll learn more about these later. And our three elements that we've reviewed are inside of the body element. The body tag would be considered the parent tag of the H1, A, and IMG tag. They are the children of the body tag, or in other words, they're nested inside of the body tag. H1, A, and IMG are also referred to as sibling tags. They are all at the same level inside of the body tag. Notice how they're indented further than the body tag. This is not necessary, but it's good practice to easily see the children of a parent tag. Indenting each child tag helps the HTML code be more readable. Also notice that tags and attribute names are all lowercase. HTML is not case sensitive, but again, it's good practice to leave them lowercase. This is what our HTML page would look like after the browser renders or interprets the code. It's interesting to note that the H1 tag and A tag look very different. The H1 is large and bold, and the A link tag is smaller and underlined with blue or purple text depending on if the link has been visited or not. The way these elements look after being rendered is not the job of HTML. That's the job of CSS that we'll talk about later. HTML is structure. CSS is how it's presented or how it looks. The reason the H1 is big and bold and that the link is smaller, colored, and underlined is because our browser has some internal default CSS that's being applied to different types of elements. For example, most browsers have default CSS for H1 tags of making them bigger and bolder than other text. We will learn more about CSS later and how we can override the internal browser CSS defaults to change things to look a certain way. But remember, it's not the job of HTML. HTML is just about structure, knowing what element is used for what content and how to organize that on our page. For HTML, the H1 tag simply means it is the main header of the page and to see its content as such. This is referred to as semantics, meaning you can tell what type of content it is because of the tag. Semantic tags describe the content that you're adding to your page. An H1 would be a main heading, an A tag would be a link, an IMG tag would display an image, a P tag would display paragraph, etc. So there we have a brief introduction to HTML.